Coming to you from Guanacaste, Costa Rica, the Rythmia Life Advancement Center, and it's a glorious day. For some reason, every Tuesday, it's just a glorious day. Happy to be alive, happy to be here, happy to be sharing time with you. Want to talk a little bit about Rythmia. Rythmia is a life advancement center unlike any other in the world. Over 13,000 people through the door. 13,000 people through the door. 95.75% of them state that they had a life-changing miracle during their stay, which is a soul merger. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Over 2,100 TripAdvisor reviews, and as a percentage of all reviews to 5-star reviews, we are a top 10 resort in the world. In the world, this little place in Guanacaste. And that competes with your Four Seasons, your Ritz-Carltons, your Waldorf Astoria is the best of the best. And we're winning that. So the better part of this is at 6 months, 91.88% say that this was the week that changed their life, and that miracle that's been their life is still working. We have all kinds of amazing guests here all the time. This week is a TITA week. It's our first TITA Thursday week since we've started Rythmia. So TITA is going to serve medicine on Thursday night. By the way, my dear friend Cesar Milan is here this week. Every week we have amazing people stay with us. Last week was Michael Beckwith. This week, Cesar Milan. Next week, I can't tell you. But every week, people from all over the world, all walks of life, athletes, movie stars. Everybody comes. Everybody comes. So a couple things that I'm going to be talking about. Last week I talked about this theory of you can't quit because you're already all in. Now, the sooner you have these realizations, and I understand there are seasons for each part of your life. When you're young, you have a season. When you're in your middle ages, you have a season. When you're getting older and you're 45s to 55s, that's a season. Then 55 plus is a season, and then 75 plus is a season. I get that. The gift in life is to get to a season or two that is after your season, during your season. It's to become enlightened, to get a little bit of an advantage. How can I get an advantage? The way, if I was 20 years old, to get an advantage is to realize that this time that you're given to have this body, this wonderful body, is finite. But to really, 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 really realize it. That's the gift there. And I want to talk about some things. So I was looking at this particular study that was done in a TED Talk. The study was done and it was expressed in a TED Talk. And the lady saying the study is that what they've discovered after reviewing all of these things from all different walks of life, that the key ingredient to success is grit. It's a word, grit. It's a word you should know, grit. Now, the definition of that is all over the place. For me, I like to say it's honoring an agreement with yourself, irrespective of conditions precedent. It's honoring an agreement with yourself, irrespective of conditions precedent. So what does that mean? That means that, please excuse me, that means that if it's my goal to lose 7 pounds, right? And that is one of my goals. I want to get to 7 pounds less. But if it is, and I can do that by not eating sugar, carbs, bread, and I'm at a party where they're having pizza and cake, the conditions precedent, I'm at a place where there's pizza and cake, but my agreement with myself was that I wouldn't do it. It takes grit to not do it. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is the beauty of the beauty and the richness of the thing. Grit generally does not happen by receiving. It happens by giving. So if you're in entitlement mode, the neck, you deserve that cake, you deserve that pizza, you deserve that soda. That's in entitlement mode. It's almost impossible to get in a framework of grit when you are in entitlement. It's almost impossible to do. Impossible. Then why, as the Dalai Lama says, why is there such nervousness and aggression in younger people? It's because they're focused on themselves at that. They're in entitlement. What can I get? What is owed me? What do I deserve? Da 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 da. In entitlement. The moment that we walk out of that into altruism, into giving, the shift occurs, and all of those things tend to go away, and then it becomes easier to honor our agreements with ourselves. Easier. So the hard part is when we're wishy-washy. The hard part is when we're wishy-washy, and this is absolutely true. Okay. Now, I talk about a couple tricks today that I keep going over, but I want you to go over them because I want you to adopt them as your own. We know from the 40-year-old Harvard study that writing our goals down, and when I say goals, I don't necessarily mean I want a Rolls Royce and a Learjet and a place in the south of France. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about I want to be or build a company that does this. I want to possess a skill that does this. I want to become a beneficial presence in this way as a energy healer. I want to become and by the way, if you're in the healing arts, the difference between someone who's average at it and someone who's great at it is night and day. I met a healer last week that was here that with the touch of his hand could change your chemistry and your da-da-da-da-da. And that happens all the time. And there's a million healers, but there are standouts. Why? They have a particular thing where they want to isolate their craft and become the best of the best. I'll get into that in a minute. But you write it down. So what are the things? We write it down. We acknowledge that it's going to take about 10 years to do. It's going to take about 10 years. One of my board members, who's a lovely, brilliant, beautiful woman, sold her company to L'Oreal for about $500 million. But it took her 30 years. 30. So if you can get in the mindset of delayed gratification, hyperbolic discounting, looking out into the future and saying that's okay, and then get into the groove of that, acknowledge the time it's going to take, but put no limit on how good it can get. Put no limit on how good it can get. In other words, I know it's going to take me a decade. When I started Rythmia, if you really get into the thing, we opened our doors in 2016. I know it's going to be till 2026 that it really starts cranking. And we're in 2023. So I still have 3 years, and we're well on our way to get it cranking. It might take me 20 or 30 years. I might be here till I die. I hope I am, because I love this. And that's part of the thing, because I'm at the curve where it starts, the load starting to lighten a little bit and velocity is getting gained. But we learned that by writing this down, writing a clear description of where we're going to be, where we want to be, we are 1,000 times more likely, 1,000% increase than not writing it down over 10 years. Fact. Okay. Now, so we write it down. We acknowledge the time it's going to take. We put no limiter on how good it can get. We agree to the daily process that it's going to take to get us to get there. We agree to the daily process it's going to take to get us to get there. And for most people, not all people, but for most people, that looks something like this, because our physical body is very much involved in that process. It looks like some form of exercise, some form of prayer. Every day, some form of exercise. Now, no, I don't mean going and doing CrossFit for 40, although it might be, I don't say that. I mean, doing some form of exercise. It could even be walking or basic calisthenics or yoga or something, and then some form of prayer, because prayer will center us and restate our goals and objectives. That can be yoga, meditation, breath work, regular prayer, spiritual mind treatments, some type of prayer every day. This is kind of what it takes. Then, and that has to be in an agreement to myself. When I'm making those agreements, this is what I do. I say, Jerry, the fact that you're here is a 400 trillion to 1 shot. 400 trillion to 1. That's tantamount, I believe, to winning Super Lotto either 11 or 12 times in a row. In a row. It's statistically ridiculously rare that that sperm would meet that egg and produce you and deliver you to this planet to do something. To do something. So when I'm talking about what I'm doing, I'm saying, oh my God, I'm a walking miracle. And because of that, because I was given this chance to look at that grass, touch those trees, eat this food, consume that fruit, have sex, have children, like I was given this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gift of this body on this planet. What do I want to give back? How do I want to give? What can I give back? Now, if I look at it that way and I write that down, this idea that is rythmia, and I do that. I acknowledge how long it's going to take. I agree not to deviate. I agree that it's going to take these things every day, and I agree that it's going to be the hardest thing I've ever done, and it's going to produce more good than I could ever imagine. I agree with those things, and then I agree to hold certain things sacrosanct to me, that I agree that no matter what, I'm going to get up. I agree that I'm going to go and I'm going to do my exercise. I agree that I'm going to go, I'm going to pray every day, every day. I say that, and today I missed, which is really, really rare. I might miss 2 days a year. So it's super rare for me to break that agreement. I had something happen this morning that I couldn't, but I did. But by and large, the other 363 days of the year, I'm in there and I'm doing it, and I do not miss. Whether I have a cold, a flu, a this, a that, I don't miss. And I'm going to ask you to not miss, to take this and to write that agreement with yourself. Now, once you start honoring those agreements with yourself, and they're hard for the first 60 days, they really are. But once you start doing it, you no longer rely on motivation. You rely on motivation once to get up that first day. That's it. After that, what you're doing is you're forming habit. Motivation does not work. I'll tell you why it doesn't work. Certain days I'm not going to be motivated. About half. About half the days, if you gave me my druthers, I would rather stay in bed. I would rather skip work. But you make this list of things that you're going to do that get you to where you want to go, right? Now, the trick of the universe is once you start doing that, your fulfillment starts happening as if you already have the thing that you're going for. Once you start doing it, the trick of the universe is it gives you fulfillment as if you already have the thing, because you're smart enough to know that your habits dictate your outcome. So you have this wealth of knowledge that's communal knowledge, a wealth of everything that's ever been learned you have access to. And once you start doing these things, you know that your habits will produce the result that you want, and you start feeling fulfilled. And then it becomes fun, and this as it goes. Now, you agreed to not deviate. You agreed to your plans, and you start agreeing to yourself and holding those agreements as sacrosanct. Now, other people, without saying a word, you don't have to say a goddamn word to them. They look at you and they know that when you say something, it is real. Because when you say it to yourself, you honor it. Now, all of a sudden, people start to flock to you. Your energy changes. People are looking to help you, not tear you down. When you are doing it in a false sense, what happens is there's a million people who take offense to it that have power to rip you out of it. But when you're doing it from the true, when you're doing it in a relentless way, and you're honoring those agreements to yourself, what ends up happening, people start showing up to help you, not to hurt you, to help you. I want to be a master piano player and I'm committed to it and but I don't have money for lessons. All of a sudden, somebody delivers a piano to your house out of the blue for some wild reason. It happens. People start to help. They hop on and help because vibrationally, you're putting out the message that you're going to get it. Now, here's something really interesting. People want to be associated with winners. That's a hard one to swallow, but people want to be associated with winners. So, when you vibrate as a person, what do I mean by a winner? I mean someone who's a beneficial presence on the planet, right? People want to be associated with that person. They do. And when you're honoring agreements with yourself, others vibrationally know that those habits are going to produce results that are going to be super and they want to be around it. Fact. So the greatest thing is this, is that what do investors do? Here's what investors do. They recognize early stage talent and bet on it. That's how all big money is made in investments. They recognize early stage talent, early stage technology, and they bet on it. You're a talent and you're a technology. You are. Crazy. So once you agree, and it doesn't matter what your yesterday was, because people do not, when I'm having an interaction with you, I'm not analyzing your vibration from last month. I'm analyzing your vibration from this moment. So that does not matter. None of it matters, not a bit. The only thing that matters is your vibration this minute. Now I'm going to talk about the real glue, the sauce that keeps us together. Is something called tithing. So you have all these things, you agreed to it, and I'm going to ask you to make the universe your partner. To make the universe your partner. So that sounds ridiculous and it sounds out there and A lot of you think of tithing as buying your way into heaven because you've been brought up in a fundamentalist Christian type of tithing environment where the guy in the TV says, "Send me your money or you're going to hell." That is not what I'm talking about. That is the furthest thing from what I'm talking about. Now, some of you are saying, "But Jerry, I don't have any money to tithe." I bet you don't. I bet you don't. But that's not how tithing works. You tithe on the delta. You tithe on the delta. So what does that mean? That means that God, whatever you consider God to be, you write an agreement, and the agreement says, God, I'm currently making this. I want to become a world-class violin player. And if I do, I'll be making this. So let's say it was 100,000 is what you're making now. And let's say a world-class violin player makes 200,000. You say, I'm going to do that, and I want to make the universe my partner. I want to make the universe my partner. So I'm going to tithe you on the difference between what I'm making now and whatever I make in the future. So if it's another 100,000, I'm going to tithe 7% of the delta, which is $7,000. And I'm going to give it to these nonprofits or these causes or these community initiatives or whatever they are, and I'm going to sign my name to it. In that moment, I made the universe my partner. It feels good. I do it all the time. I've done it for 30 years, something really long. And I want to tell you, the universe has always been my partner. Always. Make the universe your partner. Make the universe your partner and watch the energetic change that occurs. Does that occur because the universe says, oh, now Jerry's my favorite child and I'm going to help him? I doubt it. I think it works like this. I think it works like your sense of commitment to the universe gives you a different attitude and raises your vibration so that these good things just start happening to you. That's what I believe. Now, there's not one of you who can't afford to tithe on the delta. There was a time when tithing was 10%. But that was a time that, you see, the tithing is as old as it's not as old as water, but it's close. So tithing is a very old thing. And when tithing was introduced, there wasn't tax. Income tax is a very new thing. It's a very new thing, right? There were taxes in the biblical age, but there were taxes on other things, not income tax. Income tax is a new thing. So I have taken the 10% and I adjusted it down to 7% because of tax. But that 7% is on money I have not made yet. Do you understand that? So for me, I constantly put it out on the delta, and I get the delta and I pay that and I give it away to different things. Now all of a sudden you have a universal partner. So this is what you got. You realize that you're a 400 trillion to 1 walking miracle. You picked how to become a beneficial presence on the planet. You said that you're going to develop grit, and by grit, you're going to use motivation once to start this thing that you have written down with an agreement to do these different things every day. You're going to pray daily in thanks, and then you're going to tithe. That is the enchilada. There's not more than that. That is the whole show. That, because it's that and grit. It's that and sticking to it. And I have to tell you what, there's going to be a million days you're not going to feel like sticking, not a million days. There's going to be 180 days a year that you don't feel like sticking to it. There's going to be 180 days a year that you would rather have the cake and the pizza. There's going to be 180 days a year that you don't want to get up and exercise. There's going to be 180 days a year that you don't want to deal with business problems. You'd rather do something else. But it is your grit that keeps you in honor to the commitments you made to yourself. And that is where fulfillment ultimately comes from. Now, the beauty of this, the younger you are, that where you can have this happen to you and you can see this process work, the more you can use it throughout your life. So I'm going to ask you to do it this week, to listen to this and to commit to it. Until next week, I'll see you next week. God bless you. God keep you. God hold you. And by all means, if you're coming to Rythmia, book now. Book now. And by the way, I have a book that explains this in detail called Truthonomics. I'm supposed to have one here every time that I do this, and I'm gonna do it next week. I'm gonna have my books here because they describe the detail of this and how to do it in that book. Happy, fantastic, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.